concrete walls. There's a place for us where we could go, where we could be alone. Between city lights, we don't have to hide. I wanna go, do you wanna follow? There's something in the air, I can't explain it, but it's there. Ain't nobody gonna find us in our secret love affair. I don't wanna have to hide no more, it shouldn't be unfair. I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? I can't understand why we can't hold hands, but they don't know what we have is real love. Aren't you sick and tired of having to hide? I know a place, do you wanna follow? There's something in the air, I can't explain it, but it's there. Ain't nobody gonna find us in our secret love affair. I don't wanna have to hide no more, it shouldn't be unfair. I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow?
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Livestream. Thank you for joining me here on a Sunday afternoon. Just cleaning up my work area a little. Enjoying my cider. We got a cider today, for those who are wondering. How many quads do I have? I like to say I'm a professional. I have a lot. I do this for a living. I have an unreasonable number. Being a professional at anything means you have so much of the thing that hobbyists would just be so jealous, and so little time to actually use it that hobbyists wouldn't believe it. But I'm not complaining. I'm having a good time. Eric Ashner says, I only have 12 working quads. I have to tell you, for all the quads on the back wall, I probably no more than half of them would I confidently say that I could just take it down off the wall and immediately fly it. Either because, not because they're broken, because if they're broken, they go onto a shelf in my closet where they sit until I fix them, by which I mean I realize that I'm never going to fix them and I give them away. I mean, there's some truth to that. The ones on the wall are not broken, but like, for example, I'll change something about my controller setup. The 2 or 3 quads that I fly a lot will always sort of be up to date. But then if it's been 3 months, 6 months since I last flew that particular one, then I'm out of luck. So, There you go. What's that red box in the corner? It is a mini fridge. It is, the red box in the corner is a little mini fridge. It was given to me by a dear friend of mine around my birthday or Christmas. And they were like, oh, well, you could keep it nearby and you could have drinks for your live streams, which was really sweet. Unfortunately, it makes a buzzing noise that drives me crazy. So I keep it there for sentimental reasons. And on top of that, just as long as we're talking about what's in my room, on top of the fridge is the book, Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, which she also gave me. I'll start a poll on whether you think I've started reading it. I intend to read it. One of these days, I'll go on a long car trip or something, and I'll have time to read it. But I don't do a lot of book. I need to get the audiobook version. I listen to audiobooks way more than I read physical books these days. So, anyway, that's what's going on. Welcome to the live stream, everybody. One of the only books I've ever actually read, says TweetFPV. I hear it's a good book. I hear it's very good. Just checking out the beard. I think it's time to... It has... Bobby Bags, the book is not about motorcycle maintenance, for the record. It's not a motorcycle how-to book. It's like a... I think it's in some ways related to Buddhism, although I'm not sure. It's like a book about... I don't know what it's about. I think it's about like a father and son who travel across the country with a motorcycle, and then like there's all these lessons about life. It's supposed to be this really profound book or something. Anyway, there it is. You read into that what you want about me as a person and how I run my life. There's this deep philosophical book that could teach me. And there it is, sitting behind me. I sat it there. I was like, oh yeah, I got to get to this. Haven't read it. Bader FPV, I would love to have my hands on that Caddx Walnut. We got some leaked pictures of the Caddx Walnut. Can I find those in a reasonable amount of time for this live stream? We got some leaked pictures of the Caddx Walnut. This is exciting. I mean, at the end of the day, the main thing that matters will be the image quality. Price, image quality, durability. But form factor also matters, and since it's not released yet, we could certainly comment on it. I feel like it is, well, it's difficult to call something a competitor to the GoPro Hero Session 5 because GoPro just nails image quality in such a big way. But the size certainly is reminiscent of the Session. Starting price $129, very compelling. What's the Runcam 5 Orange going for these days? $109, so a little more than the Runcam 5 Orange. Again, it'll just depend on the image quality. We got a magnetic battery charging thing. That's cute, but I'm kind of confused as to what the point is. Does it also have a USB connection? Is that for charging in the air? Is that for running it in the air? I don't know. I'm going to assume it's GyroFlow compatible. All of them are these days. So that's good. Screw-on filters. Start-stop recording with the flight controller. That's cute. Data transfer via magnetic coupling. That's cute. Now this is footage from Caddx, and you should never 100% trust the manufacturer's footage when they show you camera footage. They're only going to show you the absolute best it could possibly look. So like I think this is actually footage from the camera, but you should be aware that this has definitely been cherry picked to be as good as possible. They wouldn't show you the footage if it was crappy, right? We'll turn this up to 1440p. Of course, you're only watching this at my I think I stream at 1080, so don't take this as, well, let's see. How's it look? I'll give you my impression. Must be 60 FPS. Is this 60 FPS? It looks like, yeah, it's 60 FPS. Looks super smooth. Color looks pretty reasonable. Not a lot of detail here in the shadow. That's not saying much. We've got bright sky in the footage. I'm just, noticing things. Not a lot of detail in the shadow. I would say the exposure algorithm is probably doing a reasonable job here, though, with so much sky in there. As we sort of rotate down when the sky leaves the frame, I didn't see any crazy swings in the exposure algorithm where it suddenly opened up the iris or whatever it was doing. Like it handled that pretty smoothly. It didn't seem to be distracting. So the exposure algorithm seems to have done an okay job here. We got a little lens flare there. That's kind of weird. We're going to go around here. Didn't think there's a ton of detail here. Like this, we're watching in 1440. This looks like maybe it's because gyroflow has cropped in. It looks not super high resolution. Bear in mind that just because a camera records in 4K resolution doesn't mean it is effectively resolving details at that level. It just means it's outputting the pixels. This could be cropped in, though. We'll keep going. Not bad. I mean, how picky are you going to be at this price point, I guess is the big question. Yeah, see, not a lot of detail in the shadows here. So the sky isn't really in the image here. The exposure looks basically correct. I don't think it's going to have great dynamic range, and it's yeah. Looks like it doesn't have like spectacular dynamic range. For the price, I guess that's okay. I mean, I think if I paid $140 and I got this footage, I wouldn't be mad. Well, again, with the lens flare off the side, kind of weird. Yeah. Okay, so we need more lighting conditions, but yeah, not bad. Here, you want to look at more footage? Caddx Walnut. No music, please. All right, how are we doing? Oh, very scenic location. You can work with what you got, I guess. Yeah, this looks okay. So again, I always focus on dynamic range. I don't know why. Maybe it's just my personal pet peeve. But I'm like looking in these shadows here and looking at how much detail we're getting. And we are getting some detail. This is not completely crushed blacks. Somebody, the chat's saying whoever ran this through gyroflow did a bad job. This is not a good example of the camera. Fair enough. Yeah, you could kind of see it zooming in and out and stuff. I mean, like, this is not the colors look pretty natural. They don't look oversaturated, but the contrast feels about right to me. It's contrasty enough that it looks kind of poppy. I don't hate these images just at first glance. So that's the Caddx Walnut coming soon. Caddx, send me a walnut. I'd like to try it out. We'll see how that goes. Welcome to the live stream, everybody. Welcome to the live stream. We are going to be taking your questions. We're going to be taking questions from you guys in the chat. Absolutely. When will Flow State be on Amazon Video? James, they say it takes up to 12 weeks from the day it was submitted, and that there's nothing we can do to like complain until 12 weeks is up. I'm depressed that it's taken this long, but I guess it takes as long as it takes, and at least the ball is moving. I have nothing else to say until that 12-week time is up, unfortunately. Blah. There you go. So I'll be taking your questions here in the chat. I will be taking questions from these lovely, lovely people. The smartest, sexiest, best pilots, best looking for sure, people in all of FPV. My patrons over in my Discord server. Hello! Hello, this is Patrick! And if you want to make sure I get your question, hit the $ down here, leave a super chat, type your super chat, and I will be reading those a little later in the stream. Let's see, we got any super chats yet? No super chats. Oh my God. You could be the first super chat. All right. Thank you, Jury. Celestina says, love your vids. Thank you. I'll always read that comment. Do you like gladiator movies, Billy? Slopped it. Good reference. Good reference. Can I get gyro data from the DJI FPV yet? Haxor 420, I don't think so. What I've seen professionals do, Haxor, when they want to get gyro data for gyroflow is they will, like Paul Nurkala does this, they'll have like a red Komodo on their quad, okay, or some other high-end camera, and then they'll stick a GoPro on top of it, and the only purpose of the GoPro is to record gyro data. So they take the GoPro video file, there's a utility that extracts the gyro data from the GoPro, and then you can use that to gyroflow stabilize the red camera. There are other things you can do, like you can mount a flight controller with a SD card for black box. It's kind of a pain in the ass to do that, and frankly, obviously spending $300 on a GoPro is also ridiculous. But by the time you're flying a cinema rig, then it doesn't really matter as much. But you could even get something like a Runcam Orange and just use the Runcam Orange as a cheap gyro recorder for your DJI FPV. That's a thing that people do. It's much easier to sync the data. Guillermo Nispolo points out that the Runcam Thumb can do it. The only problem, Guillermo, I've heard that the Runcam Thumb has issues with dropping frames and not maintaining sync. There was a guy on Facebook who built this VR 360 rig with eight different Runcam thumbs all pointing in different directions around a sphere. And the idea would be that it would record this full 360-degree panorama. And he said he was having trouble syncing the cameras because they would drop frames. So if that's true, if they haven't fixed that, then that makes it kind of a no-go. Why Uranium, you're not blocked. The chat just runs behind. The chat runs like 3 minutes behind. Maybe a little bit. Guillermo says the Runcam Thumb's gyro data is separate from its video. Oh. Well, doesn't that mean that the gyro data is useless for stabilizing the video? If the video drops frames but the gyro doesn't? Oh, well. Okay. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to hang out for a couple hours. Is there a way to see CPU usage in the OSD? Asks Steve Jobs. I don't think so, Steve. Steve, that's an interesting question. I don't think, but let's check. Can't hurt to check. Let's jump into Betaflight. We're going to use the European pronunciation. Betaflight. Not the American pronunciation. Betaflight. Americans like our mouths to be open when we talk. Betaflight. We really want to spit on you while we're talking. Betaflight. See, that's way more. It's narrow. The mouth is narrow. Let's see here. What would it be? I wouldn't be like CPU. Would it be CPU percent? No. Core temperature. I don't think so. I don't think so. I think you're out of luck there. You could always become a Betaflight programmer and add it. It's true. Maybe it's one of the debugs. What if it's a debug? Aha. Hang on. So we've got the debug option, and debug literally just puts 4 numbers on screen. And those numbers can be any number of things. If we then go to the CLI and type get debug, is that how you do it? Okay, so is it the same as the black box tab? I think it's the same as the black box tab. Debug mode. Cycle time. Is that going to be it? That's got to be related to the percent, for sure. Huh. Cycle time. Yes, 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 you can. I found it. Woo! Who's the man? Ah, you can get the CPU percent on screen. I figured it out. What you do is you go in the OSD and you turn on debug. Okay? All right. Debug is going to put 4 numbers on screen. Those numbers, you're going to then set in the black box tab, you're going to set the debug mode to cycle time, right? And then those numbers will represent the time in microseconds since the PID task last ran, the current CPU load in percent, that's the one you care about, the time since the previous motor update, the variance in the blah, 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 blah. And then you could also choose timing accuracy, which gives percent CPU busy. I think that's different, though, than CPU percent. Yeah, cycle time is what you want. Woo! Oh, man, nothing feels quite as good as figuring out that something can be done when you thought it couldn't be done. So there's the answer. Yes. The chat is... Why is the chat not going wild? The chat should be going nuts. I just figured this out. I want to see some emojis. No. Woo! Thank you, FPJV, for coddle. Yeah. There it is. There it is. Hey, honey, you know what Bardwell did today? Oh, my God. What did Bardwell do today? This guy asked him if you could put CPU percent in the OSD. And he was like, no, I don't think you can. But then, like, he just figured it out right there on stream. And it was so cool. And then she's like, really? I got to care more about this Bardwell guy. He sounds amazing. Okay, moving on. Let's read some of these super chats. I got some super chats coming in. Crazy Dope, thanks for a $1 super chat. Crazy Dope. Crazy Dope. Where's your question, Crazy Dope? I don't see your question. What's telemetry? Oh, I see. Crazy Dope, thanks for another $2 super chat. What's telemetry? Crazy Dope. So telemetry is when the flight controller sends data back to the controller that's in your hands so that the controller that's in your hands can display that information or react to that information in some way. The simplest form of telemetry is let's say battery voltage. So way back in the day, how did people know when their battery was about to die? Right? How do they know? Let's say you say, well, obviously it's in your goggles in the on-screen display. Haha, joke's on you. Way back in the day, we didn't have FPV. Way back in the day, we flew airplanes. We didn't even have multi-rotors. We flew airplanes, fixed-wing airplanes, and we knew where... Well, if you didn't have FPV, how did you know where they were? We looked at them with our eyeballs up in the sky, and the airplane flew around, mostly in ovals. Sometimes it would do little tricks. So how do you know when your battery's about to die? Well, the answer is that you would have a timer. you would know that I can fly for about 5 minutes or whatever. And you would set a timer. Your controller would have a built-in timer. There's a feature they put in. When you took off, you would start the timer. And then when the time, it would beep at you and say, hey, 5 minutes is up. You need to land. And you'd land. And, that's how you kept from killing your batteries. So an early form of telemetry was that your receiver, you would wire your battery directly to your receiver, and the receiver would sense the battery voltage, and the receiver would send the battery voltage back to the controller, and the controller would display the battery voltage on screen. That's telemetry. Well, telemetry has gotten a lot more sophisticated since then. For one thing, telemetry is integrated into the digital data stream between the controller and the receiver. And for another thing, the receiver talks to the flight controller and gets all kinds of telemetry information from the flight controller. So if you imagine that, because here's the thing, people realize the flight controller knows all this shit already. The flight controller knows your battery voltage. It knows, it might know your altitude. It knows your all this stuff. Might know your GPS coordinates. It knows how many amps you're pulling. It knows all this stuff. And they said, well, why don't we just have the flight controller send all that information back to the receiver, and the receiver send all that information back to the controller, and then the pilot looking at his controller can go, I want to know what my GPS coordinates are. I want to know what my battery voltage is. I want to know what my altitude is, yada, yada, yada. But telemetry, so when you talk about telemetry, think of telemetry as a two-way data stream between the receiver and the controller, and from there to the flight controller. It lets your controller talk to the flight controller, and then the world is your oyster, because then people realize, well, shoot, we don't just have to send like battery voltage and all this other, these sensors. We could treat it like any serial data connection. So if you've got the Betaflight Lua script, that runs on your controller, right? You run that Betaflight Lua script and it pops up a menu on screen to let you configure your flight controller. How is your controller, the Lua script that's running on your controller, how is it talking to the flight controller to tell it what to do? And the answer is telemetry. It uses that bidirectional data stream to do that. So at its simplest form, telemetry is I wired my battery up to my receiver, and now my receiver can tell me what the battery voltage is. The next step is I wired my receiver up to my flight controller, and now my receiver can tell me everything about my flight controller. And then the next step is I just use that telemetry link as a generic data link to do whatever I want. That is what telemetry is. Good question. Very good question. Kiet Pham, thank you for a $10 super chat. I put a DJI Osmo on my 10-inch. Cool Guys Mavic. Just keep telling yourself that. I mean, sure. I mean, $10 super chat, I'm not going to make fun of your drone. Nothing. The thing is, there are people out there who will say that Mavics are lame and stupid because they like to fly acro racing fast drones and they don't like to fly Mavics. I get that. I'm one of them. I don't enjoy flying Mavics. A Mavic is an extremely effective tool. It is impeccably engineered. It is shockingly inexpensive for the amount of technology it delivers. A Mavic is an amazing, amazing drone. It's just like if you asked me, would you rather drive a Corvette or would you rather drive a Cadillac? I'm going to take the Corvette every time. Cadillac's a great car. It's just not the car I want to drive. Mavic is a similar thing. They're amazing. So I'm a little bit offended on DJI's behalf that you put an Osmo on your 10-inch and like you're going to compare that to a Mavic. It's just something different. It's just something different. Jason, GMI Visuals, thank you for £2 in the super chat. Are OLEDs overrated when flying digital? No, 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 no. No, they are not overrated at all. OLEDs are never overrated. In fact, I had an experience a little while back where I got the walk snail goggles, which have OLED screens. And I tested them out and I flew them for a while and I made my review. And I didn't have the experience of literally flying DJI for like a couple hours. Because I don't often fly for hours at a time, to be honest with you. And then switching to the walk snails. I didn't have that. I would like fly one pack and then fly one pack and go, okay, I kind of get the... when I went with Rotor Riot to Portland, we would just fly all day. It's one of the reasons I like going on Rotor Riot trips. Is it's an excuse. Apparently, I'm pathologically unable to do anything recreational. Everything has to have a work purpose. So I go on a Rotor Riot trip and they're like, hey guys, for work today, we're going to go and we're going to fly drones all day. And I'm like, wow, that's a real treat. I want to do that. And I flew walk snail all morning. And then I crashed and I broke my walk snail quad and I couldn't fly it anymore. So I switched to DJI quad. And it was the first time I'd had the experience of flying walk snail for a long time and then DJI. And I thought the DJI didn't look as good as I remembered it. So weird. And then I got back on the walk snail. Like I don't remember exactly how the story. I fixed the quad. I don't know what happened, but I got back on the walk snail. And as soon as I fixed the walk snail, suddenly, oh my God, it looked so much better. And I realized that if you look at the DVR, they look very similar, and in a lot of ways, the DJI looks better, I think, because it is doing smarter things with its bit rate, and it's encoding the image better. But when you're actually looking at the screens, the walk snail was like knocking my socks off. I was like, this looks so good. Why does this look so good? And I realized it's the OLED screens. That the OLED screens are brighter, they're more saturated, they're more intense, and it hits your brain. I really believe this. It hits your brain in a way that is different than like a dim. You look at an LCD screen and you're like, yeah, it looks okay. It looks pretty good. And then the OLED is just like, it's like at the beginning, you know, when they do the, what is it? That sound for the Dolby, not the Dolby. You know, it goes, Bwah! And you're like, ah! That's what OLED screens are like. So no, OLED screens are not overrated. OLED screens are the shit. Now, I still think DJI is currently a better system than Walk Snail. But as far as the goggles, absolutely. That's why the DJI Goggle 2 are so exciting. That's right, Scott Milano. THX, thank you guys. It really is. It really is. OLEDs are... It's the same with analog. When I switched to the HDO2 with the OLED screens, it's like, it's better. It's better. And when you first look at it, you go, I see it's better. It's only after you've been on OLEDs like all day and suddenly you switch to LCDs that you go, what is this trash? You know? Anyway. GMI Visuals. That's the question I just answered. Thank you. Haxor420, thanks for a $5.49 Canadian. Jeremy Stromso, thank you for a $5 super chat. Tattoo 1400 6S 4.0. Two of them where the first cell only is dead. I always discharge to storage. Jeremy, I don't know the official policy, so I don't want to misrepresent tattoo, but I've seen people on Facebook complain about tattoo batteries with dead cells, and the tattoo account pops up and says, you should try to claim, we have a warranty on our batteries, you should claim the warranty. If I had these tattoo batteries where the first cell died and I knew I hadn't mistreated them, I would try to claim a warranty. And if contacting tattoo doesn't do it, then post publicly. And when I say post publicly, I don't mean that you should be a jerk about it. I just mean, because sometimes people post and they're like, such and such a store, such and such a vendor is trash. I can't believe what happened. And it's like, that's not how to get off on the right foot. Just post somewhere and say, you know, post in Tattoo's Facebook group. Hey, I bought these batteries. 2 of them are dead. Is this normal? Like, what should I do? But Tattoo, I think, is pretty good about warranty replacements. And people don't know that they have warranty on their batteries. If you mistreat them and you kill them, that's not going to get warranted. But if you have 2 batteries that legitimately just died for no reason, contact Tattoo. Try to get them fixed. Try to get them replaced, rather, not fixed. Justin Vititau, I think. Thank you for a $5 super chat. JB Phoenix 2 cam on JB-V2 flight controller wired to UART1. How do you get into the camera setting? Betaflight setting is all that shows on boot up. To get into the camera setting, you go center throttle, yaw right. And that should bring up you should then see cam control in the OSD. And your quad will beep if you have a beeper. Once you're in cam control, you do center throttle yaw right to open the menu, or to basically click the button on the joystick, the virtual joystick, and you do up, down, left, right with the right stick to move up, down, left, right. You can see an example of this, Justin. In my video about the RunCam camera control adapter. This is look at that young 2018. My God, if only we knew what we were in for. I always like to look at my office way back in the day. Yeah, it's pretty much the same. If we look. Here we go. So you can see right here. Hang on a second. I'll unmute the desktop even. Oh, it's kind of like power cycled everything and then it suddenly started working. I don't know. But it's working for me now exactly as it should. So to enter the camera control mode, I'm going to put the throttle to center and I'm going to push to the right. And what you'll see is that this blue LED comes on here. I'm not sure if the camera. You won't see that if it's built into the camera. You're in camera control mode, and at that point, you can. Let me get my. Also, I should say that Betaflight added the ability. This is an older video. The OSD will say cam control now when you enter camera control mode. So that's how you'll know you're in camera control. So I can see what I'm doing. You can operate these sticks just like it was the little joystick that you plug in. So, for example, to click the button, you push to the right, and then you use the right joystick to go up, down, left, right, exactly as you would with the regular joystick. Give me that button. There we go. Yeah, you could do exactly whatever you want. It just works. Fantastic, huh? Oh, whoops. No, click the button there. And then when you're done and you want to get your control back, you just push to the left with the joystick and you see the blue LED goes off. And once again, it will the blue LED will not turn off because there is no blue LED when it's built into the camera. It will just Betaflight, the OSD will show you that it has gone out of camera control. So that's how to do that. You could make a switch with overrides to set the stick commands. That's true. Just make sure you don't accidentally flip that switch when you are flying. That would be bad. Rafa, thank you for a $20 super chat. Hi, JB. I can't get the Betaflight OSD to display on my DJI goggles. It displays on all my other drones. My Crossfire receiver is wired up to R1T1. The air unit is S-Bus to R2, but also to T1R1. Is that where the conflict is? Yes, 100%, Rafa. Rafa, you can only have one thing on each UART. Okay? So if you got two things on the same UART, they're going to conflict. You should probably move the Crossfire receiver to a different UART. You could disconnect S-Bus from R2 since you're obviously not using it. And if you've got a TX and RX2, that's what you could use. Looney 2010, thank you for €2. Always enjoy the Sunday streams. Glad to have you here, Looney. 406 from above, thank you for a $10 super chat. Thanks for the help the other day. Drone Camps RC. Drone Camps RC, Justin, good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Thank you for a $10 super chat. Thanks for all you do, bro. How's Drone Camps doing? A little while back, he sort of changed the focus of his channel. I wonder how that's going for him. Let's see what he's been putting up. Drone hunting in places we could find a dead body. Base camp electric skateboard. 300-watt LiPo charger review. Eachine. He's really branched out. How to fly a drone. Step-by-step beginner's course. 4K racing drone. Oh, is there a new Wizard X220 out? I shudder to think. Let's see. DJI Mini. DJI Mini 3 Pro. Fatal Flaw. Lots of different content coming out there. Fatal design flaw. For that. Wow. Yeah. I think that a while... Oh, okay. I see. I think he's moved away. He tried to do the crypto thing for a while. I think that seems to have passed. Because the subject, the banner used to be a little broader. I think he's gone back to drones. That's not... Justin, I didn't know you were a blonde. What is this thing? Oh, yeah, I know what that is. Yeah. So, hope you're doing well, Justin. Oh, yeah, no, he's completely ditched the crypto thing, hasn't he? Except, well, okay, we're going to name drop Elon Musk. Of course. Yeah, thank you for the super chat, Justin. JRB FPV, thanks for a $5 super chat. On a TX12 Mark II ExpressLRS, is it possible to make the arm switch point away for armed and HTX? Yes, absolutely. JRB, remember that ExpressLRS wants aux1 to be high for arm. That is completely independent from the switch position, though. What you need to do is, when you set up the mixer line, you set the weight. And the weight, instead of being 100, will be minus 100, and that will invert the channel. Meaning that the switch will be high when it's low and low when it's high. Make sense? Thomas, thank you for €5. Thanks for replying to my mail and making all these videos. Appreciate you, Thomas. And that is all of the super chats. Iraisin2745 asks, will you make a review of the Wizard X220 V3? Let's look at the Wizard. The Wizard X220, I have always had extremely mixed feelings about it. I did a review of the X220 a long, long time ago because so many people were buying it, and there were just so many people I talked to who said this was the quadcopter that got me into FPV, and you can't argue with that. If it gets you into FPV, if it gets you enjoying the hobby, that counts for a lot. That counts for a lot. But my God, this is such a bad quadcopter. To be fair, I haven't tested the V3. Historically, the X220 has been made to a price. It has been extremely inexpensive to the point where I feel like it goes too far. in terms of trying to save money, but it gets people into the hobby. $199. Now, once upon a time, for $200, you would get the Wizard, a controller, and battery, and a little charger. Nowadays, you just get the Wizard itself. There's nothing wrong with the specs. 2207 motors, 2550 RPM for 4S batteries. That's fine. 40 amp ESC. That could be fine. BLLES, nothing wrong with that. F405 flight controller. Nothing wrong with the specs. But the problem is, like, the ESCs on the Wizard used to just die for no reason. The flight controller used to just die for no reason. And it made it really hard to recommend. But so many people bought the damn thing and started flying with it that I was really torn. And I'm still torn about it. The thing is, here's the thing. You can't review this product. What I mean by that is, if I were to buy one of these and review it, it would probably be fine. And any little complaints I might have about it, like maybe the default PID tune isn't the absolute best, maybe the VTX isn't as powerful as it could be easily explained away by the extraordinarily low price. These days, you're spending $300 to $350 on an analog bind and fly, a good quality analog bind and fly, like the GEP-RC Mark V, the Diatone Roma, the Nazgul Evoque. All of these quads are going to run you $300 to $350 for the analog bind and fly version. And this one's coming in at $200. So in all of the ways it might not be like top notch, you say, well, shoot, you saved $150. You should buy it. But a reviewer cannot tell you that out of every 1,000 of these, 150 are going to have the ESC pop in the first 2 weeks for no reason. I made that number up. Please don't. I'm just trying to get the concept across. A reviewer buys a product, tests it, and even if I did buy this product and the ESC died on me, what does that mean? It's just a sample size of one. It's very, very difficult to judge. I think about that when I get a product and the product that I get is defective in some way. It's easy as a reviewer to go, F this product. This product is bad. Like I recently did a review, it hasn't been published yet, of the Foxeer Reaper 2.5 watt VTX. I'm not going to spoil the review, but mine didn't make 2.5 watts. Now, before you go spreading that around the internet, watch the whole review, get the full context. But long story short, mine didn't make 2.5 watts on the max output power. It made 25 watts on the minimum. All the other output powers were more or less in the ballpark of correct. And then at max power, it didn't go up to 2.5 watts. It was at about 1.6 to 1.8 watts. What does that mean? Because I looked and Gal Kremer tested his, and his made 2.5 watts. Okay, now we have a sample size of 2. Unless you are going to buy 100 of them and test them all, you cannot get a meaningful sample size to judge the quality of something like this. So what do? Well, what you do is you go based off of history and reputation. When I buy a TBS Unify, if I were to buy a TBS Unify video transmitter and the second day that I had it, it crapped out and died, I would think this is a fluke. I got a bad one. I got unlucky. I would hope they would hopefully send me another one, perhaps. But their reputation stands for itself. An Acon ESC, a Rush VTX, all these things, they have a history and a reputation. And so I look at the history and the reputation of this product and I go, I don't care if a year from now they've been selling the crap out of these and they're fine, then I'll revise my opinion. But so far, based on what we know about the Eachine Wizard, I would bet you that the ESCs are just going to die, for example. That's because what they've always done. And they're slim ESCs with tiny, tiny little FETs. So, I mean, I think I'm going to win that bet. So I don't know. How do you review this? I guess that if I was to review this, that's what I would say. I would say this is inexpensive. It'll get you in the air. I would point out any problems I saw with it or ways to improve it. And I would say, if you buy this, be prepared for the ESC to die, because dollars to donuts, it's going to. So. Has the Discord stopped updating? I don't see any new messages in the Discord for a minute. I bet it stopped updating. Hold on. No. People in the Discord have just shut up. Go figure. Alrighty, fair enough. Dexter in the Discord asks, what do I do if the ExpressLRS RX Wi-Fi doesn't show up? Dexter, if there's a chance that you have a V1 firmware, then that's why. Dexter, what device is not showing up the Wi-Fi? What receiver is it? That's my question for you, Dexter. Jelmer Hemstra wants to know, what's my opinion of this? It's cute. It's clever. A lot of people want those backward-facing GoPros for the cinematic flying, right? Is that what we're doing here? It's got the, it's an Octo, so it makes me think you're carrying like a cinema camera, like a Komodo or something. I guess people do a lot of work with GoPros, though. Yeah, it's got potential. It's got a potential. It's cute. I like the arm design. This V arm design is clever. I don't know, like maybe a structural engineer or a mechanical engineer would look at that and go, oh no, there's something wrong with that. I like that better than some of the other curved arms designs that I've seen. The triangle shape is going to add rigidity, and cutting the arms sideways out of the carbon is going to alleviate some of the other issues with like shaped carbon and stuff that other people have done. It's going to be cheaper. That's pretty cute. Joe M asks a good question. Why an Octo if all you're flying is 2 GoPros? Can we not fly a quadcopter and keep things simpler? Valid, Joe. Valid. I know that Catalyst Machine Works has a quadcopter, quad, 4-inch that they've designed for carrying dual GoPros. It's supposed to be pretty good. Red Komodos says, MJ says, red Komodos. Well, I mean, these are GoPros for sure. Jack Halligan, thank you for a $10 super chat. Jack just says, thanks for all your help. Coelho FPV, thank you for a $10 super chat. What's the best way to use Betaflight or black box indicators to quantify individual motor vibration and noise? Black box, I don't know how you could tie down individual motor vibration, Coelho. You can look at the motor RPM, but you're not going to be able to tie the vibrations to a specific motor. The best way to see if a motor is off balance is to spin the motor on the bench and look at the gyro data. So what I would do, Coelho, is this. First, put the quadcopter down on like a towel so it doesn't vibrate against the desk, because that can create resonance and vibrations that can throw your numbers off. Okay, so get like a fluffy bath towel or something and set it down on that. And then go into Betaflight, go to the Motors tab, and what you're going to do is you're going to look at the gyro trace, and you're going to spin the motors one by one, okay? Raise the motor up to about 50% and then lower it back down, and look at the RMS value for the gyro. Let me zoom in on this just a little. So over here on the gyro, we've got the X, Y, Z axis and RMS. Look at the RMS value. I mean, look at the X, Y, and Z as well. And if one of them, here's the max. This in parentheses is the max. And then we've got the RMS value, okay? That's the average, sort of the average for all of them. So we're going to look at the 3 axes and look at the max. And so what we'll do is we'll reset those. And then we'll spin motor number 1 up and down. And then we'll look at the max values and so forth. These are going crazy because I'm literally holding it in my hand. I'm making it go nuts. And if one motor is significantly worse than the others, then that tells you that something is up with that motor. We got a picture here from John Goblin. John, are you trying to piss me off? Is that what you're doing? Are you trying to make me sad? John's got a quadcopter that weighs almost 900 grams, 850 grams. Why would you do that to me, John? No, I'm just teasing. Looks good, John. Looks like a clean build. Yeah, 850 grams. It's a chunker. I didn't like my 5-inch when it was at 850 grams. Yeah, I was unhappy and wanted it to be lighter. But, you know, you do you, man. You're flying it on 4S, right? If there's one thing I've learned from Bubby, it's that you should fly on 4S and you should make your quad as heavy as possible. And then, you know, his results speak for himself. Siadi's here. I knew he would appreciate that as well. Oh, John Goblin. Now you're talking my language, John. Woo! 537 grams with the Imperials, too. Those are not light motors. 537 with the Imperials. That's impressive, son. Now, you had to go down to the DJI Action 2, which is not a compromise I'm willing to make personally, but I understand that to get the weight that low is saying a lot. Now, John, here's the question. What's the difference between these two quads, John? I mean, we could look at the pictures and we could guess, but you tell us, John. What's the difference? 537 to almost 850 grams. That is 5, 6, 7, 8, 37. That is over 300 grams of difference in weight. And both of these are 5-inch quadcopters. Right? How did you save 300 grams? That's an extraordinary amount of weight. By the way, John, this DJI Action 2 mount is the best Action 2 mount I've ever seen. So if you do fly the DJI Action 2, that's the mount you want. I want John to summarize the difference in these two quads to say how, because they're both 5 inches. They have the same motors. So it looks like the same frame, although I can't be sure. It's not the same frame. I take that back. How'd you get it? How'd you get it that lighter? That much lighter? Excuse me. Thomas, thank you for €5. I think we got you, Thomas. Is it just the battery and the camera? I don't know. I'm waiting to hear. DLMI Driss wants to know, is it possible to have full screen analog video on DJI goggles with the WTF-OS hack? No, I don't think so, DLMI. I think what you're referring to is the fact that the DJI goggles can't do 16:9 widescreen analog. They only do 4:3. Is that right? I don't know that the WTOF has any difference, any hacks or plugins that are related to that. John Goblin says, in terms of flight feel, the 537-gram quad flies like a feather. It is a Tooth Fairy 2 with 5-inch, 5mm arms and 21mm standoffs. The Source One V3 has 6mm arms and 3mm plates. It was built for bashing against concrete. It's built with the 25mm Imperials. So you've got a lighter frame, you've got a lighter camera, and you've got a less durable quad, but it flies much, much better. Interesting. Jay asks, how do I pick a 6S battery coming from 4S? Weight or milliamp hours? Kind of hard to do it by weight. Jay, the question you're asking is, if I'm going from 4S to 6S, how do I get a battery that will give me approximately the same flight time and performance? And the answer to that question, actually, weight is a fairly good proxy. It's not the best because batteries do have, varying weight, but in lieu of anything else, buying a 200-gram 6S and a 200-gram 4S is likely to get you pretty close to the ballpark. The actual answer to your question is watt hours. So milliamp hours isn't good because if you buy a 1,000 milliamp hour 6S, you're going to have 6 1,000 milliamp hour cells. If you buy a 1,000 milliamp hour 4S, you're going to have 4 1,000 milliamp hour cells. That is going to be 1/3 smaller weight, two-thirds the weight, and 2/3 the capacity. Watt hours is the thing that takes into account both the number of cells and the milliamp hours. So you would look for it's typically going to be printed on the battery, the watt hour spec. You can also just take 3.7 volts and multiply by the milliamp hours to get the watt hours. However, another shortcut you can use is, because 4 is 2/3 of 6, to go from a 4S battery to a 6S battery, you go 2/3 the milliamp hours. And you get approximately the same watt hours. So those are some ways to search for batteries of similar size and so forth. Vit05, going back to the question about camera control. Vit, if you think that when you first power up the camera, in the upper left of the screen, it should say either joystick control or I think the other thing it says is FC control. And that should appear for a couple seconds on power up and indicate which mode you're in. It needs to be in FC control, not joystick control. To switch them, you short together the TX and the RX wires or pins. Short them together with like a pair of tweezers or something, and then power up the camera. And then it'll switch it. John Goblin points out that the battery he's using is different on those two quads. The Tattoo R-Line 1050 mAh is 169 grams. The Speedy Pizza is 200 grams. Yeah, the Speedy Pizza has a protective rubber sheath that adds a lot of weight. There may be other places the weight is added. Jesse FPV in the Discord. Thank you for being a patron, Jesse. Appreciate your support. I was given a JB F4 V2 stack. I installed it in a quad. I get the first 3 start. Wait, JB F4. The JB F4 can't be a stack because I guess it could be. Never mind. I take it back. I get the first 3 startup tones, but not the last 2. The FC is powering on via battery. A small cap on the plus pad on the ESC PDB is blown out. How should I troubleshoot? I mean, does the flight controller have a motor protocol selected in the motors tab, Jesse? I mean, if you didn't have a motor protocol set in the motors tab, then you wouldn't get the second 2 beeps. That's the first thing I would check. Ron Legend says, my T-Motor F722 flight controller gets super hot when I plug the flight controller in via USB. That happens to me too. The processor can run super hot on these. I don't think it's abnormal. As long as everything seems to function okay, just go with it. Jesse confirms motor protocol is set. So the next thing I would do is I mean, it's weird that you don't get any of the second 2 tones. Like if one of the ESCs was bad or one of the signal wires was broken, you would still hear the full startup tones from the other 3. So it does make me think that something's up. Can you, I mean, what about swapping it with a different ESC? Or so I think I might try a different ESC. although the flight controller is more likely to be the issue. It doesn't feel like the ESC would be the issue, but it's possible. If we're convinced that the flight controller configuration is right, then swapping hardware is probably the next place to go. Espander wants to know, is there somewhere I can go to find more info about the WTFOS mods, like what they do and how to use the features? Yes, the WTFOS Discord is the place to go. Maxitrillion, thank you for a $20 super chat, and a perfect opportunity to segue into a little bit of a plug for some of the projects that I've been working on lately, and an opportunity to let you guys know about them. So we have about 2 minutes of me plugging my projects, and we'll get back to the stream. We're going to start with my website, fpvknowitall.com, which is the home of the ultimate FPV shopping list, where you can find product recommendations in various categories. Like, want to know what LiPo charger is right for you? Well, here we go. I got a lot of information about how to pick a LiPo charger and which ones I think are the best and why I think they're the best. fpvknowitall.com. Anytime you're looking for my recommendations for various products, this is where to go. In addition, searchfpv.com. When it comes time to buy something and you're like, is anything in stock ever? Well, like, for example, I was just trying to find somebody a Hoda S6 charger. SearchFPV.com is a multi-store FPV search engine. So if I put in a search result here, now here we are searching, I don't know what stores we're searching. Some of these are, let's just search all stores. And in stock only. Okay, let's do it again. We're adding stores constantly. We've got stores in Canada, the UK, Germany, USA, of course. Here we go. In stock only, Hoda S6. Well, the search results are whatever the store returns. So you can see here that some of these stores are not returning the exact search result we would want. Nope, it's not in stock anywhere. Okay, well, screw you. There you go. Now you know. Well, it's not in stock at any of the stores that are participating in this search engine. Obviously, it's maybe in stock in other stores. But, yeah. Searchfpv.com. That's where I would start searching anyway. Is Amazon included in the search engine? Robin Visser. No, it is not. Amazon's terms of service would prevent us from including them. Unfortunately, we can't include them. I would love to, but I'm not allowed to. Did you know that if you can't see every part of every one of my live streams, the Joshua Bardwell live stream clips channel is here for you. Every week, It's Blunty goes through the whole live stream, cuts out the best parts, and uploads them as clips. Would love to have you as a subscriber over there. Check out. Well, just, I mean, even if you watch every part of every live stream, like, have you ever gone, I remember during a live stream, Bardwell talked about this one thing, but I can't find it. Yeah, me too. That's the real reason I did this. So I can find my own brilliant digressions and side conversations from the live streams. But I'd love to have you as a subscriber at the Joshua Bardwell live stream clips channel. And last thing, Patreon. It's a website where you can subscribe to me for as little as $2 a month or more if you feel like I've earned it. The amount you subscribe at is totally up to you. Patrons get access to my Discord server where all the beautiful sausages over there can help them out with, all just the kind of stuff you see me doing every day. They're there. I'm there. And patrons get access to podcast downloads of my live streams if you prefer to listen to them instead of watching them. Wow, that's a lot of patrons. That's a big number. I did not realize I had that many patrons. I haven't really been keeping up with the number. That's amazing. The amount you subscribe at is totally up to you. Whatever value you think you get from my content. If today's the day that you go, you know what? I'm gonna do it. The link is in the video description below. And like I like to say, if today's not the day, hey, keep watching the content. I'll keep making it, and hopefully that day will come. That's it. We're done with the promotion. Now it's time to get back to the goodness of the live stream. How many viewers did we lose during that plug? Not that many. Fantastic. Hi Peoples Senior asks, any reason an ESC would lose power maxing out during a moonshot when other motors are at 70%? Yes. First of all, good job on on diagnosing that problem correctly. If during a full throttle punch out, one motor is at 70% and the other motors are at like 100%. No, I'm sorry, the other way around. If one motor's at 100% and the other motors are at like 70%, that's not normal. What that means is that one motor is making way less thrust than the other three. And so it has to go all the way to 100% and the others are just loping along going, hey buddy, why are you so slow? Now it's normal for during a full throttle punch out, some of the motors are going to be at 100%. Some are going to be like 90, 95%. You might see a motor as low as maybe 85%. They're all kind of going up and down. But if one motor's at 100% and the others are down near 70, that's not right. The first thing I would suspect is a bad FET on the ESC. If you have a blown FET on the ESC, so there's 6 FETs on each, there's 3 high side and 3 low side FETs on each motor output of an ESC, if my understanding is correct. And you can have a situation where one of those FETs is damaged or non-functioning, but the motor still spins. It just doesn't make as much power. And that's the first thing I would suspect is a bad ESC. So, I'm sorry that's probably not what you were hoping to hear, but there you go. It looks pretty clean, man. We're looking at this picture going back to that JBF4 ESC that our flight controller that isn't working. That's pretty clean. You said the capacitor was a little smoked. Let's get a closer look at that capacitor. I don't even think, you're talking about this little damage here. I don't even think that's a thing. That just looks like the soldering iron touched that a little bit. I don't think that's damaged at all. I think it's fine. No, I don't think there's any damage here to the ESC. I think something's up with the flight controller. Let's look at the other side real quick. Oh, I take it back. That's too bad. So, that's not good, but I don't think it should affect the function. These capacitors here, I think, are just filter capacitors. I could be wrong, so take that. I think they're right up next to the plus and the minus. So I think they're just little filter capacitors to help clean up the power coming in. So I don't think this should affect the functionality of the ESC in any significant way. It'll just be a little more likely to have noise problems. But I think it should still work. Do we have any like damaged components anywhere else? And you get the first 3 beeps, so we know the ESC has power. I don't see any other damage. No. Nah. So I think your ESC is fine and there's something up with your flight controller. That's my guess. Swap the flight controller. James says he thinks it's dead. But James, you think it killed the MCUs? That's interesting, James. I mean, it looks to me like he was soldering and he lifted those capacitors, but Jesse says he swapped the ESC out for a T motor and gets all the startup tones. Well, no, James, why are you saying yes? That means I was right. That the ESC is fine. I mean, it's not fine, but the flight controller is the problem. I'm so confused. I always must know whether I was right and someone else was wrong. That's critically important to my sense of well-being. One of the little capacitors blew. The other came off, removing the... Why did the capacitor blow, Jesse? I mean, James, you say the ESC's dead, but all it's got is 2 little missing capacitors, and the ESC powers up and makes the startup beeps. Why? I don't understand why you're arguing that the ESC is dead. If the ESC makes the startup beeps, it's at least barely functional. I'm so confused because James knows what he's talking about. So if it sounds to me like he's just out of his mind, it makes me think I'm out of my mind. Alrighty. Well, we'll come back to that. Irazvan2745 wants to know, is the Jumper T Pro good for beginners? Yes. Yeah, it's not bad. There's a learning curve involved in ExpressLRS that has to be acknowledged, but the T Pro is a fine radio for beginners. It's as fine as anything. Dragonwing FPV, that's a very good question. Dragonwing says, you said that Alexander Fedorov explained that FETTech has no filters on the RC input. Does this mean it's best to have the ADC filter off for G4 and Ultra? Well, I think the argument would be that it's better to have the ADC filter on, Dragonwing. I don't know. That's an interesting question. So there's 2 ways to think about this, Dragonwing. One way to think about it is that if the flight controller doesn't filter the RC command, then maybe it would be better to have a little bit of filtering in the controller. But another way to think about it is that if it's been designed for the highest possible performance, then maybe there's compensation for those like spikes and missed packets somewhere down the line in the PID loop. And although RC command isn't filtered, maybe Fedorov is a really, really smart guy. He knows what he's doing. So, and he wants the highest performance possible. So my guess would be that KISS wants an unfiltered RC command as the input. My guess would be, and it is a guess, so I want that said. My guess would be that you would want ADC off for KISS Ultra, and somewhere in the PID loop, it compensates for the fact that RC command is not as filtered. That's my guess. You could always join the KISS Ultra Discord and ask what the best practice is currently. Kaput wants to know, is 250 milliwatts ExpressLRS on the Zorro enough? Let's put this to bed, okay? Let's put this to bed. This is going to go on the Livestream Clips channel, I'm sure, because this is a good question that gets answered constantly. I answer it constantly. Let's put it up on a YouTube channel for people to refer to. Is 250 milliwatts, most of the internal modules, like the Zorro, the Jumper, the Radio Master T16, most of the radios with internal modules only go up to 250 milliwatts. There are some exceptions. The Jumper T Pro goes up to 1 watt. Yeah, the Jumper T Pro goes up to 1 watt. But in general, they top out at 250 milliwatts. Why do they do that? They top out at 250 milliwatts because that's as high as the ExpressLRS devs feel is safe to go to without active cooling. Okay? And they're not wrong. The Beta FPV 1 watt module I have seen at least one Beta FPV 1 watt module that did not make its rated power. You would set it to 1 watt and it would overheat and shut down and not output 1 watt. Now, I don't know how widespread that is, but it's a valid concern. So you need active cooling. And when you are inside a radio, it's harder to have that active cooling. Now, has Jumper somehow figured this out? Maybe. I don't know. Maybe. They got some fans in here or something? Maybe. I mean, either it outputs 1 watt or it doesn't. You can certainly test that. Is 250 milliwatts enough, though? So should you go with a 250 milliwatt module inside your radio, or should you buy an external module that goes up to 1 watt? The answer to that question depends on how you intend to use the system. If you run ExpressLRS at 50 hertz, it can go, I mean, it's been tested at 100 milliwatts out to 30 kilometers or something preposterous. I don't remember the exact number. But Wesley Vardy flew ExpressLRS out to tens of kilometers on 100 milliwatts. If you're using the low packet rate, you can get extraordinary range. If you want to be running 250 hertz or higher, that's where I draw the line. 250 hertz, 500 hertz, or 1000 hertz. Then you're going to get a significant reduction in range, and you're going to want a little more output power. Let me just look. There's got to be a table of receiver sensitivity here. Let me just find it. Okay, so take a look here. 50 hertz has a receiver sensitivity of minus 117 dBm. Okay. So 117. 500 hertz has a receiver sensitivity of minus 105 dBm. So 117 minus 105 is 12 dB. That's very, very convenient. It's very convenient because a change in power of 6 dB represents a doubling or halving of range. So 12 dB is 6 dB twice, represents 1/4 or 4 times the range. That's actually very, very convenient that the numbers worked out like that. What that means is that the difference in range between 50 hertz and 500 hertz, all else being equal, is 50 hertz has 4 times the range of 500 hertz. Okay? Now, that dB goes both ways. So 6 dB change in output power will also double or half your range. So if I'm at 250 milliwatts and I go to 1 watt, that is a 6 dB change in power. So you can see that if I go from 50 hertz to 500 hertz, I go down by 1/4 of the range. If I go from 250 milliwatts to 1 watt, I come back half the difference. I haven't quite made up the distance. In other words, 50 hertz at 250 milliwatts is about half the range of 500 hertz at 1 watt. You following me? You with me? This is the kind of calculation you can do to decide if 250 milliwatts is enough for you. But the real question is, how far are you going to go? My opinion is that 250 milliwatts is fine as long as you're running, let's say, 150 hertz, maybe 100 hertz or below. Okay? 100 hertz or below. I'm looking at the receive sensitivity table to see where I want to draw the line. 100 hertz or 50 hertz, 250 milliwatts is fine. If you're running at 150 hertz or higher, and especially if you want to run the little ceramic antennas, which cost you about 3 dB, then you're going to want to be at 1 watt. Okay? That's what I would say. Now, some people would say, I do run the ceramic antenna, and I do run 500 hertz, but I'm a racer, and I'm not flying behind buildings or any of that nonsense. I'm just flying out in a multi-GP field, or I'm flying a tiny whoop inside a building. Okay, 250 hertz might be okay. There you go. I would say for a beginner should just fly 50 hertz. A beginner doesn't need ultra low latency. A beginner isn't going to care about ultra low latency and ultra connected smooth feel. Okay? A beginner should just fly 50 hertz and then 250 milliwatts is fine. We got a table here. Rauk FPV, can you give me a link to this table instead of just a picture? This is a table showing the maximum distance pilots have flown at 250 milliwatts. These are actual flights. Fail-safe at max range? No. So they got out this distance and did not fail-safe. So these are actual flights, not just theoretical. And you can start to... Now, bear in mind, though, this is ideal conditions. If you're not flying straight up in the sky, if you're not flying straight up in the sky, at high altitude, if you're flying around trees or buildings, these numbers mean nothing to you. But it may give you some perspective. To get this kind of range, you got to go super high in the air to avoid obstructing the Fresnel zone of the signal. So, alrighty. Good question. Love that question. Thank you, IREP3D, for 1999 South African Rand. Keep going, JB. You're awesome. We love you so much. Oh, Saudi Arabia. I'm sorry. It's ZAR is South African Rand. SAR is Saudi Rial. Sorry about that, IREP. Thank you so much for the donation. Super Adjustable, thank you for a $10 super chat. What's the best motors I can get for a 3-inch prop size with 4S 850, 6S 850? Can I just try? Siati, help me. Help me, Siati. Can I just try to talk you out of running 3-inch on 6S? Did you say 4S? Wait. 4S 850 to 6S 850. So you are considering 6S. Please don't do 6S on 3-inch. It's so pointless. It's so pointless. But I stand by that. I stand by that. It makes so much more trouble. At the very least, it's harder to find batteries in that size because there aren't as many 6S. There aren't as well. The problem is that a 6S 850 is going to be 2/3 the size, or 1/3, 25% more size. Fuck. 33% more. 3, 2, yes. 50% more. There we go. I got it. No, it's 50. The problem is a 6S is 50% larger than a 4S, but a 4S is 33% smaller than a 6S. It F's me up every time. So you would need like a 550 milliamp hour 6S to get the same weight. They just don't make many of those, if any. Get a 4S. It's the way to go. But what motors to get? Well, very good question. And the perfect opportunity to head on over to my website, because in the sub 250 gram page, we have some recommended motors. We actually are just in the process of updating this motors section, but these recommendations are not too bad. So the Zing 1504 is actually, we're removing it because we can't, it's out of stock everywhere as far as we can tell. The Emax 1306 4000 kV, or if you want to go a little chunkier, the Zing 2 1404, or you can't go wrong with the FPV Cycle 16 millimeter. So these are some suggestions for motors you could use in that size. Yeah. There you go. Brandon RC, are you using the RFD 900X? Brandon RC, if you're using the RFD 900X system, can you please contact me? I guess I could contact you. I know where you are. I had a person reach out to me with a question about RFD 900X. You're not using it for control? You're just using it for Mavlink? Oh. I knew somebody who was using it for control, and he was saying that the RSSI telemetry worked, but the RSSI would just go from 100 to 0 and never read anything in between. And I was like, I'm sorry, dude. I just don't know anything about that. If anybody out there has used RFD 900X and knows anything about getting the telemetry working right, please contact me, because I just couldn't help the guy because I've never used it. All right, great. Apparently, people actually use that. I was like, what the F is this stupid thing? I've never heard of this. I didn't say that, by the way. What's the best budget 5-inch DIY kit that you recommend? Asks Bedrock MP4. So I partnered with GetFPV to build the Freestyle Beginner DIY Drone Kit JB Edition. This is the analog version. It comes with everything you need to build this 5-inch freestyle drone, and it's got a full build tutorial with the level of detail that I am famous for to take you through every step of the build. That is what I recommend. Here is the link. There's the link. And it is in stock. If you're trying to pick it up, it is in stock. The analog one is in stock. Is the digital one in stock? I don't know. I have to look. Okay. Let's see here. Somebody asked earlier if they should get my build from Banggood. I would like to check if they're still carrying my build. They had the V1. It's the V2. My God. Well, I'll be. So this is, I should let you know, this is official. GetFPV sometimes uses Banggood as a distributor or a retailer. So the reason is that shipping from the USA is extremely expensive if you don't live in the USA. And by having Banggood warehouse the product and ship it, they can save money. Especially because these kits are manufactured in China. GetFPV, like everybody, manufactures in China. So they just send them over to the Banggood warehouse, and they don't have to ship them all the way to the USA and back again. So if you buy it from Banggood. Be aware that it is the actual product. It's not a ripoff or a clone. It is official. And I would hope that GetFPV would still provide you with support if you got bad parts or something. Although if you live outside the USA, the shipping on that might kill you. I don't know how that would work. What's different about the V2? The flight controller and ESC have had a minor revision in the V2. The motors are bigger. They're 2207 motors. And the frame is now the QAVS instead of the Freak style, which I'm a big fan of. I like the QAVS, obviously. Robin Visser says, is Banggood really dying? Well, I'll tell you this. Hang on, let me see if I can... I'm going to piss them off by doing this, I think. Hopefully they'll never notice. Do I still get money for it? Yes, absolutely, Jeremy Sarge. I get a percentage of the sale of the kit. That's how these things go. Hello. Well, I'm gonna try. I was trying to load you a number, but oh, there we go. How can I check my points? Let's see. No, my account, not my points. My orders, no. How can I see my affiliate? How can I just see the history of my affiliate stuff on Banggood? Gosh darn it. This is frustrating. That is the wrong, I see. That's the wrong. Here we go. We're so close. Well, I may not be able to do this. I was going to try and show you a chart. No, I can't. I can't get this chart. I can't find where this chart is on the website. I can tell you that my Banggood affiliate sales are way down from where they were a year ago or something. I was going to try and show you a chart that represented it roughly, but I've spent enough time with you sitting there staring at me, trying to look it up to try to... I'm going to move on. I don't know if it's dying. I don't know if I'd go that far, but it's definitely way down from what it was. Pavel said Banggood is dying, so that would probably mean that it isn't, because Pavel says things are dying when they aren't. I can tell you that all FPV retail sales are lower than, say, 2 years ago, is my impression from my website traffic. Obviously, I don't have internal sales numbers from the stores, so I can't say for sure. But looking at my affiliate referrals and my website traffic and so forth, FPV as a whole, the numbers are down. My YouTube numbers are pretty solid. It's hard to know whether that's to do with FPV as a hobby or the economy as a whole. Like, certainly you can look at the fact that flight controllers are twice as expensive as they were 2 years ago and say, well, that's driving some people out of the hobby. In the same way that it's driving people out of everything. But I can definitely say that proportionally to the other stores that I have affiliates with, so of course that's the number that I know is how many affiliate sales I make. I can say that Banggood used to be, going back, say, 4 years, Banggood was I don't know how far back you have to go, 4, maybe 5 years. Banggood was the biggest affiliate store that I had. Banggood, I did more sales through GetFPV, through Banggood, than GetFPV, Race Quad, anybody. Not combined, but they were bigger in terms of the number of sales that I made. And that is way, way not true anymore. They're down there at the level of, well, I'm not going to name names of the guys. The guys who are at the top, you could probably guess. I'm not going to like name names and make people feel bad for being near the bottom, but they're down there. So, anyway, yeah. I got it. The back in 2018, when I quit my day job, one of the reasons I quit my day job was that my Banggood affiliate sales were preposterously high. I think in 1 month in 2018, like one of the biggest months, I made like $11,000 in affiliate sales just from Banggood. They weren't all like that. Don't overreact, but I was like, oh, I think I can afford to quit my job. We'll give it a go. That's not the case anymore. Steve, if a person has an existing shopping cart and signs in with your affiliate link, do you still get the credit? I don't know the answer to that. I don't know how that exactly works. I think the safest thing to do is to have an empty cart, click the link, fill the cart, and check out. So, I used to do Wi-Fi network design and troubleshooting. Gary Snape says, I have no PAL or NTSC option in the OSD tab in Betaflight anymore. Has it been removed? Let's look at that, Gary. If we go to the OSD tab, I'm on Betaflight 4.3, and sure enough, there it is. So why don't you have it? Well, I wonder if I go to... If I set OSD DisplayPort device equals MSP, meaning I'm using like WalkSnail, HD0, or DJI, does it go away? Sure enough, it does. So when you set the OSD DisplayPort device to MSP, there is no NTSC or PAL anymore. And that's why it goes away. Yeah, you could legitimately say that if it wasn't for Banggood affiliates, I might not have gone full time. That wasn't the only thing that factored into my decision, but it was a big part of it. Anyway. Seasons come and seasons go. Yeah, now I have an editor. I have a guy who edits and works on my website. I have an accountant. I pay Ciati for something. No, I'm joking. I know it. Ciati works on the website. I have I practically have a business. It's crazy. It's crazy. We got about 15 minutes left on the stream. Ciati is going to be streaming at 3 p.m. And he's going to be posting the link to his stream. If you want to keep going, if you want to keep the streaming goodness going, you can watch Ciati's stream starting at 3. We're going to keep taking a few more questions. Jesse says, when you're setting the OSD with DJI Air Unit, should it be set to PAL or NTSC? Jesse, it should be set to PAL. However, technically, you should go into the CLI and set it to MSP. You should set OSD DisplayPort device equals MSP. But setting it to PAL basically does the same thing. So, Abraham, good to see you, my friend. Glad you're here. You can always rewind, Aber. JP O'Brien says, I miss the videos you would make from your hotel room. Yeah. So for those who don't know, in 2018, I quit my day job and went full-time YouTube. Before that, I would... Basically, a lot of my job was I would go to a place like an office building or a hospital, and they would be about to redo their Wi-Fi network. And I would walk around with a laptop and I would measure their Wi-Fi, and I would generate this heat map. So you'd have a floor plan, and on the floor plan would be a heat map that would show the strength of the Wi-Fi. And then if there were places where we would look at it and we would go, because we were experts at Wi-Fi, and we would go, okay, you're going to add a new access point here, 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 and here, and that's going to give you great Wi-Fi. So I'd spend all day walking around this hospital or whatever, measuring the Wi-Fi, and then I'd go back to a hotel room in the evening and I'd make videos from the hotel room. Sometimes, because I just loved making videos. Sir Brocolot says, it sounds like an awesome job. I have to tell you, it actually it was one of my favorite jobs, because I don't know if this is going to make sense to you, but you know when you're mowing the lawn, okay, this really isn't going to make sense to a lot of people. You start, right? And you go in, you mow one row and another row and another row, and slowly you can see like the lawn is its own progress bar, right? As you mow the lawn, slowly the unmowed grass gets smaller and the mowed grass gets larger. And there's this sense of progression that's really satisfying to me. Like if you ask me to clean up the house, like there's toys all over the floor, I got to sweep, there's no sense of progression. Like at the end, somehow the house is clean. But while you're doing it, it's just constantly, it still is dirty and crappy right up until the point where it's perfect. And then you're like, oh, this is so nice. For like 5 minutes until your kids throw all their shit all over the floor again. And the dog gets hair everywhere. And that's life. There's a sense of progression is my point. And I got that same sense of progression when I was doing these site surveys. Because I would start with a floor plan. I would literally have, maybe it's a 10-story hospital. Okay, so I got 10 stories, okay? And I go and I do maybe we'll start up on the 10th floor because it's extra small. We do floor number 10, done. And I check it off the list. And I do floor number 9, done. And I check it off the list. And I'm filling in these heat maps. And what I'm being asked to do is fundamentally not super complicated. I just have to walk around into every location and measure the Wi-Fi. And it was relaxing in a way. Because, like, there's nothing, I'm not going to be presented with any earth-shattering problems that I need to solve with creativity. I like that too, in its own way. But this was really satisfying and almost meditative. You just walk around, you measure the Wi-Fi. At the end of the day, you did 3 more floors. Are you on track to finish by the end of the week? Yes. Okay. Relax. Go get some dinner. Watch some TV. Play some video games in the hotel room. Come back the next morning. Get a cup of coffee. Walk around. It was really, really satisfying in a way. I kind of liked it. The only problem with that job was the freaking people. The people. The nurses and the patients and the people. Be like, excuse me, Mom just had a baby. She's in there trying to nurse for the first time. And I'm like, excuse me? No, we didn't. Can I come in and look at your Wi-Fi, ma'am? Yes, no, sorry, just do your thing. The best one of those I ever had was a hospital that had just been built. It was a brand new building and no one had moved in yet. So they had the Wi-Fi network all installed and they were moving in the furniture, right? They were still just finishing the last 5% of the construction, but there were no nurses and no patients. And I just got to walk around this empty building all day listening to an audiobook and just being alone. It was so satisfying. I really liked it. Anyway. Asalas88 says, your patron posts seem to be delayed by a couple weeks compared to YouTube. Is that on purpose, and why? It is not on purpose, Asalas. That's just how long it takes me to get around to posting them. So after the live stream, I upload the recording of the live stream. Fabio converts it to an MP3 for me and edits it, cuts it down. And then he sends it back to me, and I have to put it up on Patreon. And a lot of times it just takes time for me to get around to uploading it. It would be better if I did it faster, but I don't. It just is what it is, and I'm sorry. Fenton Crea says, I just bought an Evoke analog and I'm not happy with the 600 milliwatt VTX. Is there a 20 by 20 VTX that goes above 1 watt? No, there's not. There isn't one that I'm aware of. The most powerful 20 by 20 VTX I know of is the Rush Tank Mini. It goes up to 800 milliwatts. That's it. I literally don't know a single 20 millimeter VTX that goes higher than that. So there you go. Eachine TX805 it goes to 1.6 watts. Says I didn't catch the name. Says MJ. Is that true? If that's true, that's very exciting. Holy shit. Excuse my language. Kids, cover your ears. Look at that. I did not know this existed. 1600 milliwatts. I mean, that does look like it'll fit in a 20 millimeter build. What's the spacing on those mounting holes? Is it 20 or 30? Doesn't say. Can't tell. Foxier Reaper? Well, Foxier Reaper, so hang on. Foxier Reaper. Oh, you're right. Gosh darn it. Wow, I'm sorry. These are 20 millimeter mounting holes, technically. So the Foxier Reaper does have 20 millimeter mounting holes. I guess that could count. I mean, the Rush Tank Solo also has 20 millimeter mounting holes, but it hangs out over the edge so much I don't think of it as a 20 millimeter. You know? I don't think of this as a 20 millimeter because it's so much larger. I don't know if this would fit in the Evoke. The other thing to keep in mind is that these guys need airflow. So you would want to take the side plates off the Evoke if you ran these. They would overheat. So, okay, technically this does have 20 millimeter mounting though, so it could count. Remy Tim says, my favorite job ever was working as a delivery driver for Amazon. It was just 40 hours of listening to podcasts and audiobooks every week, doing my own thing on the route by myself. That sounds amazing. That sounds amazing. I would have one earpiece in my ear listening to the audiobook so I didn't have to stop it when I got out of the truck to do a delivery. And I'd have one ear... Obviously, I'd have one earpiece out so I could hear traffic and stuff for safety. So, obviously. The Rush Tank Mini is legit. Is legit 20 millimeter. Like, to me, this will fit into any 20 millimeter build. It's legit 20 millimeter. That's why I say it's the most powerful 20 millimeter VTX. I do appreciate you pointing out this does have 20 millimeter mounting. Like for the back of a 5-inch frame, this would be fine. But for something like the Evoke, where it's pretty freaking tight, it may or may not fit. Yeah. Gepar C Rad Mini. 1 watt VTX. Show me the... That's pretty small. That might fit in Invoke. It's possible. That's possible. Invoke's pretty tight. TBS 69. That's true. Of course, that's only if you're running Crossfire or Tracer, I suppose. SpeedyB TX 800 is another 800 milliwatt. Good choice. Richard Warwick, I know that cars and vans have Bluetooth. You would, if you get out of the truck to do a delivery, you'll have to pause the audiobook because you won't be able to hear it in your ear hole if you're using the truck speaker. That's what I meant. Got a question here from Papa Midnight FPV. Thank you for a $5 super chat. Papa Midnight says, my Basher VTX feed shows up on a different channel every power cycle. Is there a config error causing it? Papa, the first thing I would do is go into the ports tab and disable smart audio. And then that will tell you if the flight controller is changing the channel or if there's something wrong with the VTX. If you disable smart audio in the ports tab and it still changes channels all the time, then your VTX has a problem. If you disable smart audio and it stops changing channel, then for some reason the flight controller is causing it to change channel. That's where I would start that troubleshoot. I am not surprised to learn the Amazon truck doesn't have Bluetooth, Eric Ashner. What about bone conduction earbuds, huh? Like the Quarter guys have those. Could you use those? Timbo Slice, thank you for a $5 super chat. Lumineer double Axi 2 HD long range antenna. What the hell is this? So, it's just a higher gain antenna. That's all it is. It's nothing weird about it. Higher gain Omni antennas are usually just created by stacking two individual elements on top of each other. Thank you, Mike Bergman, for being on the ball with that spammer. It's just it's like a 5 dB antenna instead of a 2 dB antenna. That's all it is. It's just got a slightly narrower transmission pattern or reception pattern. Super Adjustable, thanks for a $10 super chat. Thoughts on the SpeedyB F405 V3 for $69? Super Adjustable, these days, if you can get a stack for $70, $80, that's a hell of a deal. They've cut some corners by using an F4 chip instead of an F7, but there's nothing wrong with that. And the only question would be, like, is the ESC going to stand up to the kind of abuse we give it? And since this is like half the price of other stacks, it's probably worth a punt. The feature set on that flight controller is really impressive. I think SpeedyB has done a good job with it, and it's probably worth a buy. That's what I would say about that. We are coming up on the very end of the stream. We just got a minute or two left. Aaron Ciotti is going to be streaming at 3 p.m. and he's posting the link to the stream, so you can click on over there when I get off the air. Got just a couple minutes left, though. MJ asks, I have a problem. I can't focus on Fat Shark goggles. Are Orca goggles better, or should I stay with box goggles? MJ, I'm going to guess that if you can't focus, it's not because you need, like, diopters or something, but it's that some people just can't get the goggles to sort of resolve correctly. And for those people, I wouldn't think that the Orcas would be significantly different. Certainly wouldn't be confident enough to recommend that you spend $600 or whatever dollars. I would stay with box goggles if you find that you can't focus and can't resolve Fat Shark goggles. Alrighty, folks, we are going to wrap up this stream. I will see you tomorrow at 8 p.m. And Tuesday at 6 p.m. for the news. That is going to do it for today. Thank you so much for coming out. Thanks to everybody who donated. And Have a great stream, Aaron Ciotti. Goodbye, everybody.